So ladies, let's do this. In all of your prayers, if you would, in all of your thoughts, let's get some energy behind the idea of paying this place off.
He never expected the audit to reach her hands. That much is clear now, because when that folder, thick, tabbed, and printed in color, showed up at Janelle's rental mailbox just after sunrise last Thursday, everything Cody had worked so hard to spin unraveled in under 30 seconds. Sources say the package had no return address, just a postmark from Las Vegas and a red sticker stamped confidential. But what was inside? Let's just say it didn't stay confidential for long. Page 1, according to insiders, outlined a timeline of bank activity going back 18 months, coinciding almost exactly with when Janelle claims she first started asking Cody about those missing royalties and getting nothing but foggy answers and awkward shrugs. Page 2, that's where things took a hard left, because right there, listed in bold, was a transfer allegedly for $38,000 flagged as misc, disbursement, to a joint account bearing Robyn's name.
We might need more than one space, though.
I agree, because you have to move it every 4 months.
And that wasn't even the largest one. The document allegedly maps out over $300,000 in what the audit labels undocumented internal reallocations. Translation: money moved around without explanation or visible invoices, most of it heading into accounts tied to a small family LLC that Cody quietly re-registered last year without notifying the wives. That move alone, insiders whisper, may have been a direct violation of their post-divorce financial agreements. But the real shocker, the recipient field on multiple entries lists none other than R. Brown. And sources close to the wives say that's when Janelle hit record on her phone, just to document the moment her entire world tilted. She allegedly sat on that patio, phone camera rolling, flipping through the audit as her hands shook. "Tell me this isn't what I think it is." She reportedly texted Christine with a photo of the spreadsheet, and Christine's reply, one word, all caps, "Wow." According to one source, that same night, Janelle printed out the full packet, 3-hole punched it, and drove it straight to Christine's place. They spent hours combing through every highlighted line, tracking transfer dates and cross-checking them against family group chat arguments, multiple entries lined up. One in particular, dated just weeks after Robyn's lavish Christmas haul appeared on Instagram, showed a wire transfer for $44,000 labeled asset recovery.
So he had 4 of everything, right? Or more. And now, I know he doesn't have his stuff at Meri's. Of course he doesn't have his stuff at my house. He can't put his stuff at Janelle's because she has a little tiny trailer.
Insiders say Christine circled that line in red Sharpie and muttered, "He's not even trying to hide it anymore." But it didn't stop there. That same section of the audit included a short paragraph titled, "Notable Vendor Activity." One name listed, a private security firm Cody allegedly used for his and Robyn's property during the pandemic, totaling nearly $10,000 in monthly fees. Janelle insiders say gasped when she saw that line, because back when her sons were begging for their dad to spend time with them, Cody was allegedly using family money to keep private guards posted on Robyn's cul-de-sac, while claiming he was just keeping everyone safe. And just when they thought they'd reached the end of it, another red flag. A second account under Robyn's name opened less than 4 months ago, with an initial deposit of $72,000. That's when, according to the source, Janelle looked at Christine and said, "This is a slush fund, and we weren't supposed to find it." But they had, and Robyn's name was on nearly every page. And that's exactly when the real panic started, because the moment Robyn's name showed up in those line items, not once, not twice, but on nearly every transaction trail, Janelle knew this wasn't just bad bookkeeping, this was a betrayal. One that had been hiding in plain sight, cloaked under phrases like vendor fees, asset relocation, and distribution buffer. But the audit stripped away the gloss and laid out the wiring map in brutal black and white. And Robyn, she wasn't just a footnote, she was at the center of it. Insiders claim that after confirming the spreadsheet's accuracy with an independent accountant, a friend of Christine's who owed her a favor, Janelle finally picked up the phone. What followed was reportedly a 3-way call between Janelle, Christine, and Meri, who had been mostly silent since her retreat launch. But this time, Meri allegedly didn't hesitate. "You're not going to believe what I have," she told them, according to sources. And what she had? A string of screenshots from a private banking app that Robyn had briefly shown her last year by accident, images Meri had quietly saved. One of the balances, dated March of the previous year, displayed a sudden deposit of just under $50,000 from a familiar LLC, one tied to Cody's name.
Let's get those thoughts going. Just, if you've got a creative thought, if you've got something you're thinking, anything, just go through that creative thought and see where God guides us to accomplish this goal.
When Meri had asked about it back then, Robyn allegedly brushed it off with a vague explanation about settling some old debts. But now it looked like hush money. The trio reportedly agreed to meet that night at Christine's new place for what one insider dubbed the kitchen table summit. They laid everything out. The audit, the screenshots, even copies of old emails Cody had sent them about financial restrictions. The pattern was undeniable. Cody had allegedly rerouted hundreds of thousands from communal earnings into accounts controlled solely by himself and Robyn. And while the rest of the family downsized, took side gigs, or moved into rentals, Robyn's household, according to the audit, saw a monthly increase in discretionary spending. One month showed a spike of over $17,000, flagged by the forensic accountant as non-essential retail. Christine, insiders say, was livid. She allegedly slammed her palm on the table and said, "He's been bleeding us dry for her," and she just plays dumb. But Janelle, she stayed quiet for a moment, then reportedly whispered, "It's not just the money, it's that he lied to our faces," repeatedly. That's when Christine revealed something else, a private message from a production assistant who'd worked on the last season. In it, they hinted that producers had been quietly advised not to film Robyn discussing finances. "They told us it was off limits," the assistant allegedly wrote. "Too messy." And that's when the theories began swirling.
So it's either in storage somewhere or at Robyn's. No idea where he has his stuff.
Why had Cody been so eager to funnel money into LLCs and keep it off camera? What else was being protected? One name came up repeatedly, TLC, because if the network had any inkling of these internal money moves, especially if tied to tax evasion or breach of contract, it could mean disaster for their future deals. Meri, usually the peacekeeper, allegedly looked up and said, "If this leaks, the show's done," and Cody knows it. But what none of them knew yet was that Robyn had already found out about the audit, and she wasn't staying silent. According to insiders, Robyn didn't just find out about the audit. She found out who had it, how they got it, and what they were planning to do with it. And when she did, she snapped. Not the teary-eyed, delicate Robyn we've all seen blink through confessionals. This was different. This was scorched earth Robyn. One production staffer claims they heard yelling through the walls of the Flagstaff home during a scheduled off day. It was like glass-breaking energy, they said. She kept saying, "They're trying to destroy everything we built." Then came the sound of a door slamming shut, hard enough to shake a photo frame loose in the hallway. By that evening, Robyn had allegedly locked herself in her room and refused to speak to producers, even though a scheduled testimonial shoot was supposed to take place that same afternoon. Multiple sources confirm that she placed a frantic call to a lawyer she'd worked with during the family's property consolidation years prior, someone who had once helped her navigate the legal maze of plural family finances when they were still pretending to be one cohesive unit. The call, insiders say, lasted over an hour. And what was discussed? No one knows for sure. But the next morning, producers were hit with a firm email from Robyn's team, stating she would be limiting participation until contractual obligations are reevaluated. Translation? She was lawyering up and fast. Cody, meanwhile, was caught completely off guard. Apparently, no one told him the wives were comparing notes. So when he showed up at Christine's place the following day to touch base, he reportedly walked straight into a hornet's nest. Christine greeted him with what sources describe as Ice Queen energy, while Janelle stood off to the side, arms crossed, holding a manila envelope. Meri didn't even look up from her phone. According to a family friend, Cody tried to make small talk at first, even cracking a joke about how everyone's too serious lately. But the second Janelle slid the envelope across the counter and said, "Read this and tell me it's a clerical error," the tone shifted. Fast.
Cody's always had a lot of stuff. He's always had a lot of stuff. And in Vegas, he had 4 houses that he would put his stuff in.
He allegedly flipped through the first few pages, went pale, and muttered, "Where did you get this?" When they didn't answer, he tossed the envelope back onto the counter and stormed out, muttering about betrayal and ungrateful nonsense. Christine followed him outside and, according to a bystander, shouted after him, "You always pick her, every single time." Cody didn't respond. He just got in his truck and peeled off, leaving dust and silence behind. Back inside, the women sat in stunned quiet. Then Robyn called. Her voice was sharp, not shaky. "I know what you're trying to do," she reportedly said to Janelle, "and I will protect my children." Janelle, cool as ever, allegedly replied, "Then maybe stop using them as a shield." That was the end of that call. What happened next? Well, let's just say Robyn didn't retreat. She doubled down. Because the audit wasn't the only thing that made it into the wives' hands. They were about to learn just how deep Robyn's spending went and how far Cody was willing to go to cover it up. It started with a chandelier. That's how far back Christine decided to trace it. A crystal monstrosity that Robyn had posted to her Instagram story late last year with the caption, "Finally finished the formal room." At the time, it barely registered. Just another one of Robyn's home decor flexes that felt painfully out of touch while the rest of the family scrambled to pay their bills. But now that chandelier had a date, a price tag, and thanks to the audit, an exact deposit match. According to insiders familiar with the audit breakdown, the formal room renovation was one of the single largest spikes in Robyn's household spending. The chandelier alone cost over $12,000, and that was just the centerpiece. The full install, reportedly including wall treatments, imported curtains, and antique sideboards, totaled nearly $62,000, all charged to a vendor account tied to the LLC where the missing $300,000 had been filtered. And here's where it gets even more suspicious. The vendor was listed as a boutique staging company based in Utah, a company that Christine claims no one in the family had ever heard of until she looked up the owner's name. Turns out the business was registered to a longtime friend of Robyn's from her early Vegas days, someone who, according to past footage, was never seen on the show and only mentioned once, in passing. That revelation sent Christine and Janelle spiraling into a digital paper trail rabbit hole.
We're kind of under the gun. I think we need to go look at the property and figure out.
Well, the biggest thing is where are we going to put the trailer? And I did see one space that I think works really well.
Sources say they combed through hundreds of receipts and Instagram stories, matching suspicious spending lines to photos of handbags, rugs, and even Robyn's custom-designed doll room. That particular room, according to the audit, carried a renovation cost of over $98,000 over the course of 10 months. And yet, it was never filmed, never mentioned on air, kept completely off camera at Robyn's request. Why? Insiders say she told producers she wanted to keep some parts of their life sacred. But now, it looked more like hiding. And if Robyn's doll room raised eyebrows, what came next raised alarms. One flagged transaction showed a payment of over $17,000 to a private jeweler just days before Robyn appeared on camera wearing what fans later dubbed the guilt necklace, a chunky gold statement piece that many thought looked out of place during an episode where the rest of the family was discussing financial struggles. Janelle, seeing that payment date and pairing it with the footage, allegedly said, "She wore that necklace while we were talking about eviction notices. More receipts came flooding in. Designer boots, a $3,000 purse with a wait list, private hair appointments allegedly done out of state. All of it, according to the audit, paid for using the same two accounts now under scrutiny. And the deeper they dug, the more they realized just how long this pattern had been playing out. Christine reportedly whispered, "He's been setting this up for years." And just when they thought they had seen it all, Meri dropped a new envelope on the table. "You're going to want to see this," she said. "It's not just about the money anymore, it's about the contract." The moment Meri said contract, everything froze, because while the money was shocking and the betrayal cut deep, the legal side of this, that's where it could really explode. Christine leaned forward slowly. Janelle blinked. Even Meri, who usually defaulted to keeping the peace or playing it safe, had a certain edge in her voice now, like she'd finally had enough. She pulled out a stack of printed pages, neatly stapled and bookmarked. "I went through the old show contracts," she said quietly, "and guess what clause I found buried in the back?" According to sources close to the family, what Meri had uncovered was a segment from their original agreement with the production company, outlining equal compensation expectations between all adult family members featured as full-time cast, meaning each wife was supposed to receive the same baseline payment, barring special episodes or solo projects. But here's the kicker. There was also a clause about family business ventures being declared to the network if they involved filming locations, show branding, or communal family funds, and any undisclosed revenue tied to the family name that could technically breach the agreement. Meri alleged that not only had Robyn failed to disclose her involvement in certain joint ventures with Cody, but those ventures were also partially funded through that mysterious LLC, using money the other wives never saw. One particularly damning detail, a line item from 2 years ago marked consulting and image services, totaling nearly $23,000. The vendor, a boutique PR firm that, according to insiders, helped Robyn rebrand her image in time for the family's move to Flagstaff. That rebrand included press training, curated wardrobe consulting, and even digital footprint cleanup. And again, none of it was declared to production.
I don't want to put all my stuff in storage. It's not going to have a place with Janelle. So now I've got to move all of my stuff from Janelle's house to Robyn's house.
Christine's jaw allegedly dropped. She used our money to make herself more likable on our show? Janelle, meanwhile, sat back in her chair and muttered, "No wonder she always knew what questions were coming." What made it even worse? The PR firm's invoice also included a line for narrative strategy, a term that left all three women buzzing. Because if Robyn was paying for help crafting her storyline, what else had been manipulated? But the real bombshell came next. Buried at the bottom of Meri's printout was a clause about termination. If any cast member was found to have knowingly funneled money from shared assets or breached transparency clauses in their contracts, the network held the right to halt their participation and seek damages. Which means, Meri whispered, if we prove this, they could pull her, or him, or both. That possibility sent a chill through the room, because while the women had long suspected unfairness behind the scenes, this was the first time they had something concrete. Something network lawyers might actually care about, but it also meant walking a tightrope. Christine reportedly said, if we go to them, this becomes a legal mess. If we don't, We're complicit. And in that moment, as the sun started to set and the tension thickened, all three realized they were standing on the edge of something much bigger than a family feud. What none of them knew yet was that TLC already knew, and they weren't waiting around. Word started trickling back before the wives even made a move. That's how fast this thing spiraled. According to a production insider, someone from TLC's legal division had already caught wind of financial inconsistencies tied to the Brown family, and not from the wives. Rumor has it a concerned crew member, maybe even a junior producer, flagged suspicious spending reports during an internal budget audit. Turns out, Robyn's constant off-camera requests were raising eyebrows behind the scenes. Extra security, canceled interviews, wardrobe reimbursements far above the network cap, and most notably, last-minute filming delays allegedly caused by unforeseen financial stress. That was the phrase used in the logs. Stress that, the insider claims, traced back to only one household, Cody and Robyn's. What triggered the alarm wasn't the dollar amount, it was the pattern. Because while Janelle and Christine had been steadily scaling down, trimming expenses, and even picking up side hustles to support their adult kids, Robyn's expenses seemed to swell with every new season. And here's where it gets messy. The network had reportedly assumed Cody was managing the funds equitably. After all, he was technically still the head of the plural family and had signed off on most of the major deals. But now, TLC was realizing he may have been managing things very differently behind closed doors. Insiders say an emergency meeting was held late last week with TLC executives, legal advisors, and at least 2 showrunners from the Sister Wives production team. The agenda: assess potential breach of contract, flag financial exposure, and determine if any of the wives might be preparing legal action. Apparently, they had already heard whispers of the audit. Not the full contents, but just enough to panic. A flagged LLC, private account transfers, and worst of all, chatter about going public. By Monday morning, production was allegedly paused. Not officially. There was no public announcement, no press release, but filming schedules were adjusted indefinitely, and all crew were instructed to stand by pending further instruction. One assistant director reportedly told a colleague, "We've been told not to pack gear until we get the green light, but it's feeling very last rites in here." Then came the kicker. TLC began reaching out to the wives, separately. Christine was first, followed by Janelle, then Meri. According to someone close to the situation, they were offered confidential phone calls with network legal. Not scripted chats, not PR check-ins, legal. And the tone? Very much a fishing expedition, one person said. They were asking careful questions, trying to get ahead of it. Christine allegedly kept things close to the chest, saying only that she had concerns and that she wanted to protect her kids. Janelle, though, was more direct. She reportedly told the rep, "You all should have been looking at this 2 years ago." And Meri, she played it cool, but not cold. Just enough to let them know she wasn't blindsided. And maybe, just maybe, she had her own receipts to back up what the others were finding. What none of them expected, though, was how Cody would respond when he found out about the network's quiet moves. Because if there's one thing Cody Brown hates more than losing control, it's knowing he's being investigated from both sides. He blew up. That's the word insiders keep using. Blew up. Not just angry, not just frustrated. We're talking full-scale meltdown, pacing the cul-de-sac driveway in socks, barking into his phone so loudly that a neighbor reportedly heard him from 2 doors down. The trigger? A single phone call from his own network contact confirming that certain financial discrepancies had come under internal review. Cody allegedly hung up mid-sentence, didn't even wait to hear the rest. Just slammed the phone down on a patio table, kicked over a deck chair, and shouted something about betrayal from every direction. According to one source, he ranted that the wives were playing dirty, accusing them of fabricating drama to get more screen time, never mind that he was the one being flagged for mismanaging hundreds of thousands of dollars. Inside the house, Robyn was pacing too, but hers was a different kind of panic. Because if TLC found proof that she directly benefited from misallocated funds, especially in a way that violated her contract, she wouldn't just risk getting cut from the show. She could be on the hook legally. Allegedly, she made 2 urgent calls that afternoon, one to the family attorney and another to a private accountant. And here's where it gets dicey. According to insiders, that accountant had already reviewed the audit, not just seen it, reviewed it, meaning Robyn had a copy before TLC even did. The wives weren't sure how she got her hands on it. But now it looked like Robyn had been preparing her defense all along. Cody, meanwhile, wasn't thinking defense. He was thinking offense. Within 24 hours, he went live on social media. Not in a rage, at least not visibly. It was the more dangerous kind of spin. Calm, measured, rehearsed. He opened by talking about family challenges, then pivoted to confusion around finances and unfortunate leaks. Then came the kicker. We're working with trusted professionals to get everything clarified. And yes, Robyn and I are cooperating fully with all questions being asked. That phrasing didn't go unnoticed. Robyn and I. Not the family, not we, just the 2 of them, together. Again, as if the other wives didn't exist. The comment section lit up. Fans weren't buying it. Dozens of comments flooded in asking where Janelle, Christine, and Meri stood. Some asked why Robyn wasn't speaking for herself. Others straight up accused Kody of using the live to manipulate public sympathy before the receipts dropped. But the most repeated question, if there's nothing to hide, why are producers calling everyone separately? Back at Christine's house, the mood was darker. According to someone close to her, she watched the live stream in stunned silence, then turned to Janelle and said, "He's laying the groundwork to make us look like liars." Janelle nodded, adding, "And if we don't speak first, he'll control the narrative." That's when the wives started seriously considering something they'd only danced around before, bringing in legal counsel together. A unified front. Because what began as whispers over a spreadsheet had now escalated into a public PR war, and the network was watching every move. Christine was the first to say it out loud. "We need a lawyer, not 3 separate ones. One." Janelle agreed before she even finished the sentence. Meri hesitated, just for a breath, but then gave a slow nod. According to someone close to the trio, that moment marked a quiet but seismic shift. For the first time in years, the original 3 wives were united. Not just in frustration, not just in grief, but in strategy. Because now, this wasn't just about Robyn, or even Kody. This was about protecting themselves from whatever storm was barreling toward them. And it was clear now, this wasn't a storm they could wait out. The lawyer they contacted wasn't a random pick. He was a family law specialist out of Scottsdale who had worked with high-profile polygamist exit cases before. Discreet, experienced, and most importantly, not affiliated with any production companies. According to insiders, their consult lasted nearly 4 hours. They laid everything out. The audit, the old contracts, the recent network calls, and Robyn's alleged private transactions. The lawyer reportedly didn't flinch. In fact, he allegedly said something that stunned all 3 of them. From a legal perspective, if what you're showing me holds up, you've been defrauded. Possibly more than once. That one word, defrauded, landed like a brick, because it shifted the entire conversation from hurt feelings to potential criminal conduct. If Kody had knowingly diverted communal income into secret LLCs without informing the other adult signers, that wasn't just sneaky, it could be considered financial abuse, especially if any of that money came from revenue generated under the family's name while they were still under joint agreements. And what about Robyn? The lawyer allegedly asked for clarification on whether she held any managerial or financial role in the LLC in question. That part was murky, but the audit did list her name as a payee. And if she benefited financially without full transparency, she could be liable too. Not criminally necessarily, but civilly. And civil litigation, that's where things get messy. Depositions, discovery, emails dragged into evidence, and if TLC got pulled into it, even messier. But the biggest shock of all came when the lawyer asked about a specific date, an account opened under Robyn's name just after her daughter's birthday last year. The audit flagged it. Christine remembered it. Janelle had a screenshot. Meri, to everyone's surprise, quietly pulled up an old text from Kody referencing a little birthday cushion that Robyn deserved after the year she'd had. The amount? $72,000, deposited in one lump sum. No explanation, no paper trail, just a single line in the audit labeled personal reserve. The lawyer stared at the documents for a long time, then said, "You're not just looking at spousal betrayal. You might be looking at breach of fiduciary duty. If a judge agrees, he could be forced to account for every single dollar." That was the moment they decided. If TLC asked for statements, they'd give them. If the show got paused, so be it. But the days of keeping quiet to preserve the brand were over, because the next step wasn't a confrontation. It was a subpoena. Word of the legal consult spread faster than any of them anticipated. By the time the weekend hit, whispers were already circulating through the tight-knit production crew. Some sympathetic, others stunned. One assistant producer allegedly confided to a camera operator, "They're not backing down this time. It's different. It feels like Endgame." And it wasn't just the crew paying attention. According to one industry insider, TLC executives had already begun compiling internal documentation on Kody's financial involvement for what they called proactive compliance, meaning they were preparing for legal discovery before subpoenas even landed. Back in Flagstaff, Kody seemed to sense the walls closing in. He allegedly scheduled a last-minute sit-down with his longtime business accountant, someone who'd been with him since the Vegas property days. That meeting, according to one source, was tense, no small talk. Just paperwork. Lots of it. Kody was reportedly seen leaving the building with a thick binder and a face like stone. Robyn wasn't with him, but later that night, her SUV was spotted pulling into a discreet parking structure next to a private legal office she's rumored to have used during the family's earlier real estate battles. "She's circling the wagons," one insider put it, "and he's scrambling to build a paper defense." But behind closed doors, sources say Kody's tone shifted from angry to erratic. In a now widely circulated message thread allegedly leaked by someone close to the family, Kody was quoted saying, "They're trying to humiliate me. Everything I did was for this family, and they repay me with lawsuits?" He also reportedly called the Audit a fake narrative and accused the wives of conspiring to ruin his reputation to take over the brand. Christine, upon seeing the thread, allegedly laughed and said, "There is no brand anymore. He spent it all on Robyn's throw pillows." Janelle wasn't laughing. According to a confidante, she spent the following days organizing her own financial records going back 5 years. Receipts, statements, deposit slips, even old screenshots from their shared TLC earnings platform. "If I'm dragged into court," she reportedly told her attorney, "I want to show exactly what I got and what I didn't get." That phrase, "what I didn't get," was repeated like a refrain through every stretch of her documentation. Vacations denied, bills unpaid, college savings depleted. All while Robyn allegedly posted photos of new rugs, custom furniture, and catered family dinners in a house she'd once claimed was nothing fancy. Meanwhile, Meri took a quieter approach, but don't mistake silence for weakness. Behind the scenes, she was compiling her own set of proof. Screenshots of texts, voicemails, a now deleted group message thread where Kody allegedly reassured her that Robyn's bonus came out of his personal savings, a claim that, according to the audit, didn't match any deposit history. As all three women dug deeper, the picture that formed wasn't just about money, it was about erasure, about being written out of a family system they helped build, while one wife received protection, promotion, and payouts. That realization, insiders say, is what finally pushed Christine to make the next call, not to TLC, not to her lawyer, to a journalist, a well-known one, with a podcast, and the interview was already being recorded. Christine didn't blink when the record button lit up. She knew what she was doing. After years of biting her tongue and smiling through confessionals that told only half the story, she was done letting someone else script her narrative. According to insiders, the podcast wasn't some last-minute PR stunt. It had been booked quietly weeks earlier, long before the audit even surfaced. But once it did, Christine allegedly reached back out to the host and said, "Let's bump the date, and I won't be holding back." What followed was one of the most anticipated, most tightly embargoed recordings in the franchise's off-screen history. And though the full episode hasn't aired yet, sources say what Christine shared behind the mic could rattle the entire foundation of what viewers thought they knew. She didn't name names outright, not yet, but she didn't have to. According to someone familiar with the taping, Christine described a long history of unspoken power imbalances within the family, especially when it came to finances. She spoke of unexplained expenses, one-sided decisions, and the constant gaslighting that occurred whenever she asked basic questions about where the money was going. "I started to feel like a stranger in my own family's budget," she allegedly said. "Like I was asking for something outrageous just by wanting transparency." At one point, she hinted at discovering private accounts in LLCs that weren't disclosed during mediation. And while she didn't call it theft, she did call it manipulation. That word hung heavy in the studio air, but it wasn't just about the dollars. Christine reportedly painted a fuller picture, one that revealed how emotional loyalty and financial favoritism were deeply intertwined. She recalled moments when Kody would justify bigger holiday gifts or nicer furniture in Robyn's household as earned or deserved because of the stress Robyn was under. Stress that we all carried, she allegedly emphasized, but only one person got rewarded for. According to studio staff, the interviewer was stunned by how composed Christine remained. No tears, no theatrics, just facts wrapped in clarity. She allegedly pulled out printed documents, screenshots of emails, texts, and at least one copy of a budget breakdown that showed Robyn receiving nearly triple the household maintenance allowance. The others were given during a time when the family claimed to be tightening belts. Christine even brought up TLC's role, saying the network had enabled the imbalance by refusing to probe financial questions on camera, allegedly out of fear it would fracture the show's feel-good angle. "It fractured anyway," she said, just off camera. And then came the quote that, according to one producer, made everyone in the room go silent. Kody didn't lose 3 wives. He gave them away, one withdrawal at a time. That single line, sources say, is being used to promote the teaser clip dropping next week. And already, the buzz is deafening. As for Kody and Robyn, they allegedly caught wind of the podcast within hours. Robyn is said to be furious behind the scenes, calling the move calculated and unforgivable. Kody, he's allegedly threatening legal action. Not that he has much legal footing left to stand on, because once that interview goes live, everything changes. And Robyn's carefully curated silence, it's about to shatter. The podcast hadn't even dropped yet, but Robyn was already on the warpath. Insiders say that once she learned Christine had not only recorded the interview, but backed it up with printed receipts, she completely unraveled. One crew member allegedly overheard her screaming in the Flagstaff house. "She's turning this into a witch hunt. She wants to burn it all down." But the truth was, Robyn's fear wasn't just about what Christine might have said, it was about what Christine might prove. Because unlike past seasons where hurt feelings could be smoothed over with emotional apologies and producer-led couch sessions, this time, the narrative was being taken out of TLC's hands entirely. The day after the podcast teaser hit social media, fans pounced. The clip featured just 10 seconds of Christine's voice, calm but unflinching. "I was told we didn't have it, but someone else always did." That line alone sent forums and comment sections into a frenzy. People started pulling old footage, matching timelines, digging up property records, and comparing family Instagram posts to known spending sprees. Robyn's once sympathetic narrative, long painted as the reluctant favorite, was now being reframed as something far more calculated. And here's where the timing gets truly wild. Just hours after the teaser aired, a Reddit user, allegedly a former assistant to a contractor who worked on Robyn's house, leaked what appeared to be a line-item invoice for interior luxury customization, totaling over $140,000. Among the charges, custom cabinetry, imported fixtures, and yes, a climate-controlled room for antique dolls. The post included blurred-out personal details, but users quickly cross-referenced dates with Robyn's online activity and deduced that the renovations occurred during the same time Cody was publicly saying the family was down to the wire financially. By the next morning, Dollroom Gate was trending in Sister Wives fan circles. Robyn's silence, once seen as grace, now looked like evasion, and the mounting pressure wasn't just coming from fans, it was coming from inside the house. Literally, sources say even Cody couldn't keep her calm anymore. He allegedly begged her to stay off social media and let the lawyers handle it, but Robyn wasn't having it. She reportedly fired off a barrage of texts to Janelle and Meri, messages that one insider described as a mix of desperation and accusation. In one, she allegedly wrote, "You're tearing this family apart for clicks." In another, "We can still fix this if you stop." But it was too late for stopping. Janelle in particular had reached her limit. After years of being dismissed, financially sidelined, and gaslighted into silence, she was no longer in the mood to coddle anyone's panic. She reportedly texted back just one sentence, "Then tell the truth, Robyn, all of it." And here's where things took a dark turn. Because sources now claim that Robyn's legal team is drafting a cease and desist aimed not at Christine, but at the podcast itself. An attempt to silence the episode before it can fully air. But that kind of legal threat, it only adds fuel to the fire. Especially when Christine still has the final cut and she's not backing down. Christine knew the cease and desist threat was coming. In fact, she'd predicted it. Before she even sat down to record the episode, she'd asked her lawyer to review her statements line by line, making sure every claim was backed by either a personal memory, a document, or a direct quote already aired on the show. So when the legal letter arrived, delivered by email and full of vague warnings about defamation, misrepresentation, and damages to reputation, Christine didn't panic. She forwarded it to her lawyer, then made tea. "They're bluffing," she reportedly told a friend. "They can't silence reality just because it's uncomfortable." But Robyn wasn't bluffing out of nowhere. Insiders say she was desperate. As the release date for the full podcast loomed, her world was shrinking fast. Friends were going quiet. Her sister reportedly unfollowed her on social media. Fan pages that once defended her were now posting side-by-sides of her shopping hauls next to Janelle's stories about rationing groceries. One particularly viral clip from season 17 resurfaced, showing Robyn tearfully saying she just wants sister wives, now overlaid with text that read, "Only if they pay her bills?" The internet had turned, and this time it wasn't turning back. Meanwhile, TLC had reached an impasse. According to sources, internal debate was raging at the executive level. Some wanted to ride out the storm, wait for the podcast buzz to die down, then release a carefully edited reunion episode to reframe the narrative. But others, particularly on the legal team, were pushing for a different path, one that didn't involve salvaging Cody and Robyn's storyline at all. "The trust is broken," one exec reportedly said during a call. "We can't pretend this didn't happen." And that's when the most shocking possibility of all was floated: reformat the show. Remove Cody and Robyn. Focus entirely on the three wives and their next chapter. No patriarch, no spin. Just the truth. Back in Flagstaff, Cody was allegedly spiraling. He'd always prided himself on control, controlling the narrative, the money, the image. But now he couldn't even get Meri to return a phone call. Insiders say he spent days trying to track down mutual friends to plead his case, insisting it was all a misunderstanding. But no one was biting. "He's not used to being powerless," one source close to production said. And now he's cornered. As for Christine, she didn't gloat. She didn't need to. She simply uploaded a quiet Instagram photo the morning the podcast dropped, a cup of coffee, a stack of books, and a caption that read, "Peace comes when you stop pretending." Within an hour, her name was trending. So now, with legal lines drawn, fan support shifting, and producers eyeing a major pivot, the Brown family's future hangs in the balance. And maybe, just maybe, the women who were once background players are finally stepping into the spotlight they were always denied. So here's the question, friends. Do you think Cody and Robyn will survive this fallout? Or is it finally time the show told the story from the women's side only? Be sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more. The next video on your screen is waiting, and trust me, you won't want to miss it.